Hey, what's up guys? Joker here. Today we have a few quick-fire news topics that I found rather interesting to get through over the weekend, so let's not waste any time and get fired right into the first story concerning AMD and Ryzen. As you probably know from our recent videos, the formal launch of Zen is expected to happen the first week of March at GDC 2017 in San Francisco. What we can now add to that is the full lineup of 17 Ryzen processors with varying thread counts and clock speeds to fit many niches in the market, from entry-level all the way up to enthusiast. For many enthusiasts, the chip to keep your eyes on will be the R7 1800X with 8 cores and 16 threads and an expected 4 GHz boost clock. The 1800X will be the flagship Zen CPU, competing with the likes of Intel's i7 6900K, but at nearly half the cost, with the promise of more affordable motherboard options from board partners like MSI, Gigabyte, and Asus. The mid-range R5 CPUs are also rather exciting, with 6 cores, 12 threads to compete with Intel's i5 lineup. The final battleground here, I think, will be for how far the processors can be overclocked. Few games will actually take advantage of the additional cores and threads to the point where it would completely take over a 5 GHz Kaby Lake i5 processor, so AMD has a lot of ground to make up with these CPUs coming out of the box at only around 3.5 GHz. For the low end of things, we can see 4 cores with simultaneous multi-threading as well as 4-core chips with no SMT. This excites me for the simple fact that it will essentially make quad-core CPUs the standard now on entry-level processors, hopefully reducing prices along the way for its main competitor Intel, who has been lacking any serious competition for the past few years now, at least in the desktop gaming space when it comes to CPUs. In gaming news, we have confirmation from 505 Games that Sniper Elite 4, which launches in just 10 days on February 14th, will have full DirectX 12 support at launch. Personally, I'm glad to see more developers embracing the new API as long as they use it in a way that allows their engine to take advantage of the low overhead optimization. The previous Sniper Elite games have been great games on the PC despite being multi-platform releases, so if 505 can continue forward with that tradition, then I'll be excited to share with you guys when the game does release on February 14th. As always, you can expect me to be doing my full performance analysis on the game when it launches, so not too much longer now, and we will be able to test performance in it in both DirectX 11 and DirectX 12, since it will be launching with support for both APIs, so we'll be able to put them side by side and see if it's running better on one or the other. Speaking of PC optimization, Resident Evil 7, which has been praised as an excellent game on all platforms, including VR, and how well it ran on the PC, Resident Evil 7 scales extremely well, and it takes advantage of whatever hardware you throw at it, so it was rather disheartening when I learned that it didn't have ultra-wide support after it came out. It's something that seems like it should be a given on any game really in 2017, but even more so in an atmospheric horror game like Resident Evil 7, where the ultra-wide experience, I think, would certainly be outdone only by playing in virtual reality. That's probably the only way you could play that game that I think would be better than ultra-wide. Ultra-wide is pretty much second, right behind VR, so it seems kind of odd that they don't have ultra-wide support in Resident Evil 7, and it doesn't look like we'll be getting it anytime in the near future, quoting Capcom directly on why we won't be seeing 21:9 support or an FOV slider that goes over 90 for that matter. They said the dev team explored potentially going wider after seeing feedback from the demo, but going wider introduces issues where certain objects, textures, etc. are then not fully rendered out for the performance considerations. It will also have performance implications, since going wider will introduce more objects into the scenery. Having too much peripheral vision for this type of game can also lessen the tension and atmosphere intended for the game. Certainly putting more objects on the screen does make sense. It's going to take more horsepower to kind of to process the game, but as far as reducing the tension, I'm not sure if that's something I really personally agree with. You guys can let me know down in the comments below. Personally, I would just like to see 21:9 support, and hopefully the modding community can do something and maybe hack the game's ini files or something to get 21:9 working, because it would be really awesome to play this game in ultra-wide on something like the new Acer XR382 CQK, which is a hell of a mouthful in the model number, certainly, but it's still our next story. This monitor is exciting me for a couple reasons. The main one is the resolution of 3440 by 1600, which is awesome to see Acer doing that particular resolution. So in terms of height, that's closer to being something like a 16 by 10 display. If you remember, like 2560 by 1600, which wasn't the most popular resolution, but it was an awesome resolution. I remember having a 16 by 10 monitor, and it's awesome to be seeing an ultra-wide one getting that type of height treatment. And adding to that, they're going to have a 75 hertz refresh rate and AMD FreeSync support. So it's starting to look very appealing, but with the price tag of $1,300, it's certainly going to limit the market segment somewhat. But if the panel is great, then this may prove to be one of the better productivity ultra-wides out there, with a massive 38-inch screen at a 21 by 10 aspect ratio. I can't wait to get it in here on the channel so I can test it for you guys, and I am expecting to have one here in the next month or two so that I can test this monitor here for you on the channel. So keep an eye out for that video in the near future. But I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Please leave a comment below on any of the news stories for discussion, as I'll be down there as always to interact with you guys in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys next time. Ciao.